As someone who has been an outspoken supporter of Dr. Shiva Ayadure's presidential campaign, it's no secret that I share his vision for real, transformative change in America. As a systems scientist, I feel among all the candidates, he is the best equipped to bring that about. It's also on record that my mentor, Cynthia McKinney, fully backs Dr. Shiva as well. I recall not too long ago, Sabby Sabbs, a rising voice in independent media, was eager to have Cynthia McKinney on her platform. I made that happen multiple times, helping her fulfill that wish tenfold. Sabby always allowed Dr. McKinney to speak freely and at length in each interview, which was commendable. However, things changed when it came to Dr. Shiva. Sabby Sabbs failed to extend that same courtesy to him, cutting off the conversation and refusing to engage in a deeper dialogue after provoking a cycle of name calling by insisting that he, as a candidate, has no right to elaborate his vision on reparations. This disparity in treatment was striking. During the interview, Sabby delivered a provocative statement, as I outlined before. I quote, I don't tell you how to do science, so you don't tell me how to do reparations. This comment, as I highlighted, escalated into a heated back and forth exchange, marked by, as I said before, name calling. It was disappointing to witness, particularly because it seemed Sabby was no longer acting as an independent journalist, but had compromised herself by leaning deeply into the Jill Stein's campaign's orbit. Uh, so you see, I'm willing to admit that I've become a huge partisan for Dr. Shiva. Sabby Sabbs is unwilling to admit the same for her candidate, Jill Stein, which in every single post you see Sabby Sabbs do, it's all about Jill fucking Stein. This issue isn't just about a personal spat. Sabby Sabbs' biased treatment of Dr. Shiva reflects a larger pattern of selective loyalty. After the way she handled his appearance, I regretted arranging so many interviews between Sabby and Dr. McKinney. But still, despite all this, and changing my own mind on my own uh, uh, regrets, Dr. Shiva, always the diplomat, has remained open to further discussions. He has extended an offer for a round two, anytime, anywhere. His openness to continue the conversation, even with those who have disagreed with him or treated him unfairly, is one of the qualities that I admire most about him, and which I will now take to following suit in his example and dispelling my regrets about setting up the interviews between Sabby and Cynthia in the first place. In stark contrast, Sabby abruptly ended the interview and seemed uninterested in genuine engagement. In one of his recent public appearances, Dr. Shiva made an exciting uh, offer to Cynthia McKinney, offering her the position of Secretary of State in his administration. This was no spur of the moment discussion uh, or decision. Cynthia and I had discussed this possibility a bit before she made her public acceptance of Shiva's online offer, public offer of the Secretary of State's position. And we both see it as a natural step towards fulfilling the ideals we've fought for over the years. Be it with Ventura McKinney 2020 to Shiva, Iodure Elias, to whatever comes forward, whether he wins or not. I can't wait for the opportunity to organize another live conversation, this time on Kick, between Cynthia and Dr.SHIVA. The last time was such an enjoyable and productive experience. I barely talked at all throughout it all. I wanted them to be running mates, but you know what? Cynthia, as a Secretary of State's position, that's fine. Uh, but my recommendation to people is write in the actual ticket. Uh, Shiva Iodure Elias. I think I'm getting that name right. And because I know more about Dr. Shiva, way more than I do about his running mate, and I would love to learn more about his running mate. Um, I believe I've seen a lot of stuff from her before. Anywho, I believe that they, Cynthia and Dr. Shiva, have much more to offer in terms of insight and vision for America's future. Sabby's bias, however, raises important questions. Her actions in that interview exposed her as a loyalist to Jill Stein's camp. By provoking Dr. Shiva during the conversation and allying herself with Stein throughout the interview, she has become nothing more than, I hate to say it, a house slave for Zyocrat Stein's political agenda. Jill Stein, it must be remembered, once branded Cynthia McKinney, my mentor, an anti Semite for McKinney's honest and necessary critique of Israel's role in 9/11. This is the same Jill Stein who recently condemned both Vladimir Putin and Bashar al Assad, leaders who have defended their nation's sovereignty and championed the multipolar world order, which offers a powerful alternative to Western hegemony. What Sabby fails to realize is that Dr. Shiva does, in fact, have a comprehensive vision for reparations. In fact, he has a plan that encompasses all poor and working class people, regardless of race. Sabby's claim that Dr. Shiva lacks a black agenda is not only untrue, but reveals a fundamental misunderstanding of his platform. Dr. Shiva's agenda is about empowering those who have been left behind by the system, whether black, white, or otherwise. So I would love to see a second round between Sabby Sabbs and Dr. Shiva, but this time it should be a real dialogue where she allows him the time and space to explain his ideas on reparations and beyond, because that is his job, in fact, as a candidate to explain. Rooted in truth, science, and a genuine desire to uplift all marginalized people, you know, stands in stark contrast to the divisive and compromised narratives being pushed by Sabby and her Stein backers. The door remains open, and Dr. Shiva is on the record as being willing to talk further. Now it's up to Sabby. The ball's in her court to decide whether she wants to be part of an honest conversation or to continue to shield herself behind the safety of Stein's compromised legacy. When deciding to sign with Kick, I weighed several factors, including the platform's potential for free dialogue and its growing presence in both the political and gaming communities. While I've had my reservations, particularly about figures like Aiden Ross and Nick Fuentes, who are prominent on the platform now. Aiden Ross being a head figure on the platform. I believe that the opportunity for open and diverse conversation uh, outweighs my skepticism, and I'm opportunistic. I would like to label myself. That's why, the next time I have Cynthia and Shiva for a live conversation, I want to have it on Kick. I want to see it streaming on Kick, and that's why I signed. And we're gonna. Uh, there's there's just so much more room for more conversations, and I'm all open to that, to all those opportunities, because Kick to me offers a unique space where political discourse and gaming culture intersect, creating opportunities to reach new audiences and build bridges between seemingly desperate and disparate communities. Uh, the streaming world has you know, been going through the ringer for so long, and it's a dying art, and I don't want to see it die. That's why I got back into the independent media business, not really just to talk on these issues that mean the greatest deal to me, but to also broaden my horizons. So, this open environment could foster real conversations across ideological lines, something I find essential in today's climate. My concerns about Aiden Ross and Nick Fuentes, as well as Sneeko, stem from their, say, controversial approaches to discussions on sensitive topics. But I'm hopeful that engaging on Kick will lead to meaningful and nuanced conversations, even with all these said people, because I'm open to conversations with anybody. Because as uh, as my late mentor Mike Gravel once said, politics is the business of changing minds. It's the field of changing minds, and that's something that I continue to have a great passion for. And so, by creating a presence on this platform and abiding by this, supposed 1 year contract, to, not have, things exclusively on here. Rec Streams is still going to have stuff on other platforms, but a lot of stuff is going to be exclusively for Kick. Apparently, that's what's being talked about anyways. So, I'm hopeful that engaging on Kick will lead to these more meaningful and nuanced conversations, and that's really what I'm egging on to do with creators all across this platform. It's a dying art, streaming. Um, I was really getting my biggest audience on Twitter, but especially when I was streaming, uh, you know, I've already had so many YouTube networks and shit just reject me or uh, sign, uh, sign me off, and that's it's been a depressing cycle, but at least I have more autonomy doing rec streams, and it's been a slow it's been a slow way down to building rec streams up to the same IMN network, Evolution Revolution podcast that also aired on the radio in Arizona at one point. Um, I'm proud to say, but I don't have the rights to the Evolution Revolution podcast branding, And so I no longer have a contract with Radio Phoenix. Um, and losing my radio show, my radio show was so much to me. But it was not only my departure from that piece of shit Chad Wilson that made me lose, branding rights, or a return to my radio show. I also had to, I had to be, I had to be, I had to not do radio for a while because I was a gubernatorial candidate, and you can't be a candidate and have be exclusively on the airwaves, and that's also why I lost it. But if I still had the rights to the revolution branding, I would have been able to return, but I can't return, and they're not gonna. I've asked before, but they're not gonna. They're not gonna sign up rec streams for nothing. Because again, the streaming world, and that's really been my biggest demographic where I pull a following from. The streaming world it's a dying brand, and it's looking for an enema. I want to be that enema. And that's